Good morning. We'll get started in just a moment. Sound is working. Good morning. Good morning, Sunnyvale. Everything's fine. Started in just a moment. Interesting. Madness with Facebook. If you have any comment, if you have any questions, just add them to the chat and we'll get to them. Hopefully by the end of the meeting. But good morning, Sunnyvale. Happy Friday. Welcome to my weekly virtual office hours. This week's early artwork is from one of the murals at the community center. And this is one of the 5 murals that were created during the 2019 State of the City. So, it was the last pre-COVID State of the City. And I was, in downtown, but we had 5 muralists that were creating murals starting at 7 a.m. in the morning of the State of the City day and kind of going through the day. So they were all working to complete in a single day the 5 murals that you see at the community center right now. And so this was one of my favorites. It's kind of the highlights of Sunnyvale. So it had the parrots, it had apricots at the bottom, it had a little bit of semiconductor vibe as far as that's concerned. And so, ultimately it was trying to capture a little bit of Silicon Valley, a little bit of Sunnyvale, but very colorful and very artistic, So if you get a chance, if you ever buy the community center, we move them around every now and then, but right now they're stationed at the community center. You'll see the 5, I think it's like 6 by 6 foot panels, but beautiful artwork and really great to see that we added to our collection from a Sunnyvale standpoint, and it also kind of highlights the state of the city. So really happy to continue to add art in our community. Let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thank you for joining me again this week. It's been a busy week, not as many meetings, but lots of events and, other things going on that the mayor has to attend. This is the 163rd installment of my weekly office hours. Hope everyone's doing well, staying healthy, enjoying the beautiful weather that we have as we're entering summer. we've now reached 1,187 days since the March 16, 2020 county health order started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. Over 3 years ago, I converted my weekly coffee shop office hours into this weekly live stream address. And, thanks for everyone who continues to join me throughout the years. It's like it is really good to hear, from our residents, and they say they still enjoy hearing from their mayor each week, whether or not they're watching it live or watching it time delayed. But, these weekly sessions allow me to provide you some updates of what's happening in the city, give you some idea of what's upcoming from council, some of those bigger decisions, and just answer some of your questions, give you some words of encouragement. So, thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale as best I can. Most Fridays, like today, I follow up these live stream sessions with in-person meetings at Being Seen on Murphy Avenue. So if you ever want to set up a meeting, all you need to do is email me and we can figure out a time either during that, Friday morning office hours or sometime else during the week. Sometimes other meetings or keep the mayor very busy, but all you need to do is email me at council@larryklein.com. And you can always see my full calendar at larryklein.com if you want to see the events I'm going to or events that you can also join. Let's go ahead and get started and talk about what's happened at federal, state, county, and city level over the last few weeks. Last Tuesday evening, council met, and the main thing we did was kind of review our proposed fees and charges for fiscal year 2023, 2024. So this goes from everything from building permits to the cost of a round of golf. It's kind of all the operational fees that the city charges, getting, what's the cost of this or that. And, ultimately it's one step towards approving next year's budget. But, most of these services aren't, let's say, cost making from a business standpoint. It's the cost of doing services, and some we charge less and some we charge more, but it's averaging out the cost of time, because we're constantly, on a yearly basis, we reevaluate that and say, oh, you know what, it doesn't take on average this long to review this, or this long to go out and do an inspection. It actually takes a little bit longer, a little bit less, and so we adjust those costs up and down accordingly. But, it's the one step that, towards, that next year's budget that we'll be approving sometime in the next few weeks. And we'll talk about our upcoming meetings in just a little bit. And then last Thursday, I had my last class for the Bloomberg Harvard leadership training. So, a year ago, I was chosen as a Bloomberg Harvard mayor for their leadership class. So it was one of 40 mayors from around the world, 28 in the US and 12 international. And, it all started with a 4-day class in New York City last July. And, it's all paid for by Bloomberg Philanthropy. We got to meet Mike Bloomberg, and, he was, really took on the importance of changing what cities are doing. It's like, and educating. It's like that. It's that leadership training. It is kind of interesting for a mayor, for council members. It's kind of on the job training. So it was really great to be chosen to get that additional training for myself as well as city staff. It's like I went to New York for 4 days for training, and then it's been basically monthly meetings since then. The city manager, the assistant city manager, they also went to New York City for similar training. And then over the last year, we've actually kicked off a recycled water project, which we applied for through this program. And then they actually have sent staff here. They've given us additional staff work, staff support in order to do this recycled water program, as well as kind of training on how to do better stakeholder work, outreach, how to do better brainstorming. And, ultimately it's looking to improve the operation of the city however we can. And so it's really good from that standpoint as we, look to, we have, the city it has limited resources, and, we're always looking to how to improve ourselves, but it's also, we need to get the job done. And so it's always difficult to kind of take that step back. And one of the things that the Bloomberg Harvard program has done is say, oh, there are other ways of doing things. There are, it's going through case studies. It's comparing with other cities. It's like it was within the 40 mayors. It's just hearing how other cities are facing the challenges that they face. And so it's been really great from that standpoint. It's given me perspective on the challenges we face, and and giving the city additional tools in our toolkit to make change in our city. So, from my standpoint, it's been a fantastic experience, and it's kind of the first step on getting additional resources, getting additional programs, grants within the city. And it's building this contingent of mayors that have gone through the Bloomberg program, and, understanding what we can do differently. And so it's been fantastic from that standpoint, and happy, kind of sad to some degree that the class is over, but looking for other opportunities to work with Bloomberg Harvard, figuring out other ways of utilizing their skill set, and improving what we're doing within the city. So happy to be an alum now, and looking forward to meeting the next year's class when I get a chance. There's always a mayor or two from California. So last year it was the mayor from San Diego, the mayor from Compton, the mayor for Sunnyvale, and the mayor from Sacramento were part of the Bloomberg class last year. And then as far as this week, it's been lots of events. So yesterday we actually had the grand opening event for the PNC Bank at the corner of Washington and Matilda. And they've been open somewhat for the last 6 months, 8 months, but they're finally doing their official ribbon cutting, welcoming, and they're going to be a big sponsor for the downtown. So the music that's happening later this summer. And so they're already making, themselves known within the city. So happy to see that they're part of, a part of Sunnyvale, and happy to meet, some of the regional people, and, seeing, what they're going to do here. So, they have that let's say, really nice building right at the corner of Matilda and Washington, with the mural, with the mosaic on the side, but fantastic from that standpoint to meet them and welcome them to downtown as we continue to grow. And they're looking to increase their footprint regionally, and happy to see that Sunnyvale is one of their most successful new locations. And then yesterday, state lawmakers passed the legislature's version of the budget. So even as the leaders continue to negotiate the final state spending plan with Governor Newsom, they had to do it by midnight last night in order not to get their pay docked. So they did their job. For the first time in about a decade, I think California lawmakers and the governor are really grappling with a significant budget shortfall, and it's tens of thousands, not just a small shortfall. It's a $312 billion spending plan, but it kind of covers that $30 million gap. But there's a bigger question on what the actual revenue is going to be next for the coming year, because one of the bigger issues, of course, is that people's taxes aren't due for the majority of California until October, and so they don't have a good feel for revenue for what those taxes are going to be. And at least from some of the evaluations done at the state level, that might come in far lower than what has been expected. So, the legislative plan involves a lot more borrowing and cost shifts than Newsom's proposal initially proposed. And so we'll see
whether or not the governor signs that. But of course, the bigger issue, of course, is the trailer bills that some of those trailing bills that kind of refine the budget over the next few months, and whether or not how that will affect kind of the overall spending of the state. So, there's lots of big questions from a financial standpoint. Luckily, from Sunnyvale, we're doing fairly well from a budgetary standpoint. It's like we look out 10, 15 years, and there might be some lows from where we are from a reserve standpoint and all that. But for the next few years, things are looking pretty solid. It's always a fragile budget from a certain standpoint. It's like we're always trying to do a lot, and we're a very well-run city. We have that 20-year plan and the 10-year balanced budget, which is really good. But that also handcuffs us to start new programs that we might like to do. But, it does make sure that we're in a relatively good financial standpoint year after year after year. So, and those are all policies put in by councils many, many years ago, as far as that's concerned. As I said previously, I won't be covering weekly COVID numbers anymore, unless things change dramatically, although, I still hear of people catching COVID, getting COVID, but, at the mayor's conference, the majority of the people weren't masked. I go to lots of events now and rarely see people being masked. It's the handful of people in a room of 100, but it is still, COVID is still out there. It is summertime. So, being outdoors, meeting people, that's always a positive thing to do. But lots of people traveling and some people coming back with COVID, being in enclosed spaces, being, around other people, but some people being completely fine. So, I traveled to Columbus just a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and spent 4 days or 5 days in Columbus, met lots of people in lots of meetings, and completely fine. So, and didn't hear of anyone that had that was positive from COVID from any of those meetings. So very positive from that standpoint. I continue to do lots of advocating on our city's behalf at the county level, at the state level, at the federal level. Lots of questions coming up over the last week about whether or not there's any potential earmarks for Sunnyvale in the current budget, and hopefully that gets across the line. So we'll hopefully have some good news coming up. But it is always those negotiations that are critical to make sure that it's like Sunnyvale gets its fair share. We're a medium-sized city that doesn't seem to get as much focus, and we're very well run. We don't have as much drama as some other cities, and I think that's part of it. But happy to see we're moving forward, moving in the right direction. Let's go ahead and move to some upcoming events. So lots of things happening this summer. Tomorrow, there will be a pet appreciation rally at Plaza del Sol from 10:30, 11 o'clock to about 1 o'clock. So bring your pet, but you don't have to have a pet to come by, of course. There'll be booze, there'll be there'll be demonstrations. So like the canine demonstrations from, I think, search and rescue and maybe public safety will be there, but it's put on by Duo, the Duo project, who also helps us with our Halloween pet parade. So, it's always good to be out and, come join the fun at Plaza del Sol. Sunday, of course, is Father's Day. So don't forget to honor that favorite father in your life, taking them out to dinner or breakfast or whatever you want to do, or remember that special father that brought you up. Monday is Juneteenth. So it's a federal holiday. Federal offices will be closed. City offices will be open. But it commemorates, of course, the emancipation of the enslaved African Americans, and when the last of the slave owners and the people fighting the Civil War finally heard that that the war was over, the proclamation had been completed. So anyway, and then next Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. at the Senior Center, we'll be unveiling a quilt to celebrate the 30 years of Friends of the Stevens Creek Trail. And, I'm a big proponent for the Stevens Creek Trail. I've been pushing to get that extension going, and we just approved earlier this year the extension from Remington to Fremont Avenue. So Remington to Fremont, Mountain View's already working on Dale Heatherstone to Remington, and trying to make sure that we're opening up those 23 acres that wilderness and riparian wilderness that conceivably no one has access to right now. So kind of redoing that and making it available, I think is a fantastic thing. But we're celebrating 30 years with a special quilt that their members have made, that'll be placed at the Senior Center. And then next Thursday is actually Pride Night on Murphy Avenue. So Silicon Valley Pride, working with the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Association, are bringing entertainment to Murphy Avenue. And so that event starts at 5 p.m. next Thursday. And then next Friday, so it's like every day something seems to be happening. The Special Olympics of Northern California will have the torch run going through Sunnyvale. And so that'll be starting around 10:45 at the Mountain View border, so right at Arby's. And then we'll be running to the Santa Clara border. So running on the south side of El Camino, and come out and you can come out and bike with us, run with us. You can be along that route, cheering us on. So like at the Starbucks at Matilda and El Camino, or any of the restaurants along there, definitely come out. And, so that'll be around, starting around 10:45 on the western border at El Camino and Matilda, or El Camino and Mountain View, right at Bernardo. And then it'll be basically running to our eastern border with Santa Clara. So right near the Korean market, right on our border. And so, yeah, come join the fun, and or at least come cheer us on. But yeah, public safety and a good number of city staff, and I will be there as usual. So definitely, definitely join, or even support that. So I'll post about how you can support the public safety grant or funding or fundraising for the Special Olympics of Northern California. And then next Saturday, so a week from tomorrow, is the 9th annual International Day of Yoga. So if you ever want to try yoga or come enjoy yoga, you can come to the Sunnyvale Community Center. That'll be going on from 8:30 in the morning to 11 a.m. So come join the fun at the Community Center. As far as upcoming council meetings, our next meeting is next Tuesday, June 20th. We'll start with a closed session, and it's our half-yearly review for the city manager and the city attorney. And so, yeah, so council has 2 direct reports, the city manager and the city attorney, and then the rest of the city staff are all under their direction. And so, this is our chance to kind of go through what they've done over the last year, what their staffs have done over the last year, and figure out, give them any things that we appreciate or that we'd like to see change, kind of as a closed direction. And then as far as the main council meeting, we'll be approving, we'll finally be approving next year's budget. So, this is the last of several meetings. We have our all-day budget workshop. We had another meeting to take additional budget feedback. And then this is the kind of the final budget and resource allocation plan approval will happen next Tuesday. It usually happens with relatively little fanfare. It's like it's all the little tweaks. So they come up with draft budgets. So staff works for multiple months, about 4 or 5 months to come up with that draft budget for the next year. We have our all-day budget meeting, and we then take some final directions as far as budget supplements are concerned. And then staff moves forward with, creating a final budget. And that's what we'll be looking at next Tuesday. And then the meeting of the 27th, we'll be looking at approving the proposed utility rate increases for fiscal year 2023-2024 for water, wastewater, solid waste utilities for services. And, those are, we talked about those before, and there's a question, and I'll repeat that question in just a moment. Actually, might as well get to it now. Let's see, Allison asked, I saw the rate notices, what are our rates increasing? So, utility cost, of course, based upon, actual use and subscription levels, but the city's proposing a 4% increase for water, a 9% increase for wastewater, and a 6% increase for solid waste. And so, so it ultimately means for a single family home, about a $10.45 increase per month, and, all these, the city doesn't make any money on its utilities. It's all about the cost of operations and the delivery of those services. And so, for water, we get our water from two different sources, Valley Water and the SFPUC. And then it's also the delivery of that water. And so Valley Water is actually proposing an increase to their water rates of 14.5% each year for the next 2 years. So quite a large increase from that standpoint, but we have a certain amount of reserves, and we always try to kind of, level that increase. So it's not a steep jump, because, Valley Water went from 9.9 last year to 14.5 for the next 2 years, and then they're going back to 9.9. So just under 10% for the next 20 years, as they're looking at, doing Anderson Reservoir and other work from that standpoint. But, it's trying to maintain those, costs of doing those operations, collecting that with the ever increasing inflation and, the costs of doing infrastructure changes and all that continuing to increase. Let's go to some of the other questions. Judy asked, when does the summer music start? So in the first week of July, we will restart the Sunnyvale downtown music, which will happen, rock music on Wednesday nights and jazz on Saturday nights. And that'll be happening throughout the month of July and August. So happy to see the music return to downtown Sunnyvale. Susan asked, I saw your post about the utility box art. Where is it going? So we did phase 1 of our utility box art program about 1.5 years ago, and that was mainly in downtown. So it's all from, I think, like Evelyn to Iowa. So kind of, all around the downtown, kind of highlighting that downtown area. But phase 2 is 16 locations around the city, across the city, not just downtown. And you're already starting to see them. I saw, and I keep, I was driving through Fremont, driving up Fremont Avenue yesterday, and saw one, I think it Fremont Avenue and Bernardo, or no, before Bernardo, so maybe Wright Avenue. But it's good to see them. It's going from, I think, Homestead and Bellevue is the farther south, all the way to Caribbean and Crossman in the north. So pretty much 16 locations around the city that we're doing this utility box art program, and then our next stage is doing them around the different high schools in the city. So continuing to do a lot, from that standpoint of trying to bring art to everywhere in the city. And fixing our utility box, our drab utility boxes is a simple way to add a little color into everyone's life. The one that's right at the PF Chang's at Matilda and El Camino, is very colorful. It's basically an array of colors and kind of showing diversity and all that. So I think it was a great addition, but already seeing new art on the utility boxes springing up in other locations within Sunnyvale. So we approved that earlier this year, about 2 months ago, and already seeing the artists out there finishing up their pieces of art. Joan asked, what is the timeline for the walking paths and the outdoor amphitheater to be completed by the new Civic Center on Matilda? Will it be in 2023? I'm excited at the prospect of summertime outdoor movies and Shakespeare in the park. So part of building the new city hall was then we would tear down the old city hall, the annex, the portable buildings where the city clerk's office and other departments were, as well as the rabbit hutches next to the library. So we started that deconstruction, started tearing that down. The problem is PG&E can't seem to move things up or schedule. We put in the request in the last fall, like November, December, that once we moved into our new building, please, start scheduling that disconnect for power and gas to all the old buildings. Their initial response when we moved into the new city hall in April was, well, we could do it in October. So it's been a lot of advocacy in the background, trying to get them to pull up that date. They pulled it up to July, beginning of July. Because of that, we might not actually finish all of the landscaping that we had hoped by state of the city in September. But and conceivably it goes in, hopefully, depending upon when the rainy season starts. We heard about El Nino coming. Hopefully it'll all be done by October before we get into the rainy season, but that's still a big question mark as far as the city's concerned, or as far as we're concerned. But it probably won't be until next year that we actually start to actively use that space. I've already been talking to Silicon Valley Shakespeare and trying to get them to have some performances here in Sunnyvale next year, and whether or not that's at the library, at the new amphitheater next to City Hall, or whether or not it's elsewhere, we'll see. But this is one of the things of being an art mayor and loving to have the availability of art for all of our residents in differing forms. But I do think that that's a good opportunity. But yeah, that amphitheater most likely won't open. We'll keep our fingers crossed it'll be open in September, but we'll see whether or not we can, open and finish landscaping the entire 6 acres, after we tear down all those other buildings, reopening that entire 6 acres by state of the city. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see what other questions. Oh, Cynthia commented, my daughter went to Sunnyvale Police Department to file a report. They had her wait over 2 hours to come out and talk to her. That's ridiculous. So I'm not sure what the issue was. I did talk to the chief. He is looking into it. But there's always the question of, most of our officers are out on patrol. There's a limit, depending on what day of the week you're there. There's only a certain number of officers that are, there to actually take your report at any given time. So, but I did ask the chief to look into that, and so we'll see where that goes. Melissa asked, when are you guys going to put a 4-way stop on Washington Avenue and Carroll Street, because many accidents happen on the street because of it being a 2-way stop sign? It's very concerning. So, the city doesn't just randomly add stop signs wherever, whenever we want. Normally we do a full evaluation of that, and especially normally after the residents request it. I hadn't heard about any accidents at the intersection. I did ask staff to look into it, but the bigger thing is Washington and McKinley are let's say arterials, so kind of feeding into downtown, and so getting residents into downtown or residents out of downtown into that residential area is really important. And so that, that's why directionally, and it's like, and those stop signs have, cross traffic doesn't stop. So it's a 2-way stop sign because getting, that the the people exiting or entering, getting back to their homes or getting into downtown from their homes. That's one of the reasons why we have kind of a difference. It's not a forced four-way stop wherever you go. But I am asking staff to look into whether or not there were any accidents there. I hadn't heard of any. And I go through those intersections all the time and haven't seen any close calls. So not really sure. Several people asked, how was it meeting the VP when she came to Sunnyvale? So, she was very down to earth. I really enjoyed, meeting her and talking with her. And, it was good to have her ask about what Sunnyvale is doing. And it was, really, really impressed with just how she is. And so it's always great to meet well-known people. So as mayor, sometimes you get to meet some people on the national stage. We talked about Mike Bloomberg, and he was actually a very interesting character, and had a lot to say about how cities should be run. And being the mayor of New York City was kind of interesting from that standpoint. So, but no, I really enjoyed meeting the VP, and hopefully we will see her or the VP come back. So the VP or the president come back when Applied Materials continues to go forward. But she talked about her history here in the Bay Area, her love for the Bay Area. She's always happy to be back, of course. Susan asked, just curious, where in Sunnyvale is Applied's new Applied Materials new facility? Sorry. Is it on the old AMD or national sites? No, so it's the old AMD site at Duane and Lawrence Expressway is now housing and a 6.5 acre park. But the new, what they're calling the Epic Center, is right next to their old facility on Arquez. So it's about halfway between Wolf Road and Lawrence Expressway on Arquez. And, it's their current facility is about 44,000 square feet R&D. So that facility is relatively small. Their new building is going to be about 180,000 square feet. And so it's not just for Applied, though. It's an R&D campus. So it's for Applied, their customers, university, so Berkeley, Stanford, and just other partners to take a look at what are the cutting edge technologies, what can they do from a manufacturing standpoint. So that'll actually be groundbreaking in just the next few months. And then they plan to open that in the first quarter of 2026. Sharon asked before, Sunnyvale's happy and safe, but I'm wondering how green we are. Let's see, to what extent is the city concerned about conservation of nature? Are we setting the example? So we continue to add open space in the city. We had 3 parks open over the last few years. And then, actually we have another new park opening next year at the old Corn Palace. The next City Hall, the next thing as far as kind of the next is the open space around the City Hall. So tearing down, multiple buildings and opening up a lot of open space. And even at the City Hall, we ended up, we moved 12 mature trees, including the 2 large camphor trees that are out on either side of Great America or America Way. Is one of the big things about those is they were like 250,000 pounds. And so it was picking up the tree and large amounts of the earth and then moving them from next to the old City Hall to where they are now. And even we had to cut down several redwood trees when we were putting up the new building, but we actually ended up repurposing all that wood. So if you go to the new City Hall, you'll see, side tables and benches and big conference room tables that are all redwood, and not just thin redwood tables or tables with laminate, but like thick redwood. And so it's really impressive from that standpoint. And then from the City Hall standpoint, we expanded the roof So we actually expended more money to make the roof wider so we could have enough solar panels to make the building net zero. So we actually have solar panels and battery backup, and all together, it's like creating as much energy as is needed by our city hall. So very positive from that standpoint, making sure that we're, doing what we can to, make sure that we're setting the example. And we're talking to residents, when we're talking to developers, especially, it's like, okay, yes, you can go solar. Yes, you can, put in the appropriate features to make sure that it is, green and sustainable as much as you can. Let me see if there's any questions. Looks like a bunch of comments. Hope everyone's doing well. So yeah, doing well, and yeah, it's looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend. I think that's all the questions that I have, and I don't see any new questions. So let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. We live in interesting times, busy times, new issues come up for the mayor almost every day, but I want you to know that no matter what challenges we face as a community, we face them together. I'm proud of Sunnyvale and, just all the things our residents have done over the last few years and, facing those challenges and working together. I'm thankful for everyone in our community that really, shows their empathy, shows their kindness, shows their generosity. Your actions and your attitude really do make a difference. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together. We will get through this together. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, and happy Father's Day. Take care. See you. Bye.